I'm contemplating deleting my interviews, if you can call them that, really, because he reached out to me. I didn't have any questions lined up in the first discussion he and I had, but I don't consider them interviews. I consider it more just me listening and interjecting, but whatever you want to call them, I want to delete them at this point because while I am in the moment talking to somebody, I am full of anxiety. I'm sure you can tell. And especially when it deals with something this serious. I mean, we're not talking about someone's dog who died, okay? We're talking about something way more serious than that. And because of that, whenever Matthew expresses sorrow and regret, it's extremely difficult for me to be in attack mode, or not even necessarily attack mode, just accusatory mode. It's hard for me to come at him at some investigative stance when I feel like that it would be kicking a dead horse. But in hindsight, like last night after I uploaded the video, I was lying in bed, the whole house was asleep, and I had my headphones on, and I played that discussion I had with Matthew. Both discussions I played at least 3 times, and then today I did the same thing, and I'm catching on to a lot of things. Okay, so someone in the comments, I actually deleted these comments because some of them were a little profane and they actually hurt my feelings, but and I guess I was butthurt, so I did delete the comments. I guess you can call it cherry picking, but when it comes to this subject, I can't help but do that. I find the subject of Katelyn to be a very sacred one, and so I got comments that were saying that I was letting a lot of what he was saying slide. And at first, like I said, I was butthurt when I read that comment because I was like, well, I'm not a professional. I'm not Nancy Grace. I'm not some talking head. He reached out to me. I wasn't prepared. And to be frank, I don't know much of the Army terms. I don't know about the legalities involved. I'm not a detective. I don't work for the state. There's a lot of ignorance on my behalf as it pertains to what we were talking about other than parenting. As a mother, it's easy for me to comment on Tammy's psychological position, but everything else, it's just speculation and ignorance on my behalf. So I'm sorry. But in hindsight, when I listened to these interviews, I felt like I caught on to many inconsistencies. Some have been brought to my attention from other people, from another girl actually, and they're very damning. There's no really arguing these inconsistencies, and I did let them slide, but I didn't let them slide deliberately. It was because, for one, I was caught up in the moment. I don't know if it was anxiety or also because I was so I was frozen emotionally when Matthew was emotional and expressing sorrow. I was frozen. I'm one of those people who I don't know how to react when people act like that other than just console them. Even if they're in the wrong, I don't know how to act. I don't want to make them feel worse unless they, are harmful and killing people. But in his position, I didn't know how to react. And it was also distraction for me. That's all I could focus on. And so I actually was letting a lot of things slide. And a part of me is contemplating deleting those interviews now because I don't want to paint him out as a victim. I don't want to betray Katelyns' legacy, and I don't want to do something that Katelyn would be against. I don't know how she would feel about some stranger talking to her dad and posting it online and the public seeing her dad as some person who was stopped by the system because, the system is set up to make men evil, and men have no, they're having to fight in a castle against dragons to see their children. I wouldn't want her to see it that way. And in hindsight, like I keep saying, I regret making anyone think that maybe he possibly couldn't see Katelyn, because in the end, I don't believe that. And I don't mean any disrespect to him. He's gone through a lot, but I don't believe that. From personal experience, from learning about the law, I don't believe that. And I know there are always avenues, and but there are also inconsistencies that deal with the smoking weed and the not having enough money, but then at the same time his family's wealthy, or things that deal with the Army. I've actually learned things in the last day from a friend who is very knowledgeable on Army terms, unlike me. And she's really clued me into a lot of what he said is just outright not true. And so because of this, I also though want to say that when it comes to Tammy, there is still, and I'm going to get hate for this, but there is still a piece of me that feels very bad for the woman, okay? She had a traumatic childhood, and I don't want to cry. I'm crying, but she grew up in the trailer, and how does she know how to love right? How does she know how to, and I'm not saying it's because she grew up in a trailer. Matthew provided us with a pretty good reason. I'm not, okay, whatever. I feel like no matter what I say about Tammy that's not horrible, people are going to jump on me, so I really don't care at this point. But Tammy was a product of a lot of abuse. And I've noticed with kids who are abused, they either grow up to be extremely empathetic people who get walked on, or they grow up to mimic the abuse. And I don't think Tammy realized that her neglect was even neglect. I still, in the recordings, even in their fights, I could still hear glimmers of Tammy trying to acknowledge what Katelyn was saying, and the only way that she knew was she could do. I mean, she's had no positive example in her life. And so also in hindsight, I feel bad for contributing in a discussion that was kind of that pretty much was bashing Katelyn's mother. I do. I feel bad about that because she's already suffering. I don't know if she's really a sociopath. I don't know. But I feel bad about that. And I wish that she would come out and talk. Doesn't have to be to me, just to anyone. And I know she can't change people's minds who are hell-bent on hating her, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just feel bad that I let so many things be said that were contradictions, and that I, in the end, made it sound like it was acceptable for a dad to be absent in their child's life. Because it's not. In the end, I don't care what excuse people throw. Unless you are convicted of something and you are told by the law to stay away, then then fight the battle. Fight the battle then. It's okay to hate your spouse. It's okay. They can be a villain. They can try all they want. That shouldn't have a role with your child. And one of my religious friends, hyper-religious, I should say, his name is Gerard. He doesn't have many viewers. He gets, I think, like 5 views per video, if that. But I do watch his videos sometimes. We have nothing in common. But I don't even know why I listen to his videos. I like to hear him talk. I can't explain that. But he was mentioning that and forgive me, I'm outside, someone's cutting the grass. He mentioned in the video that when you have a child, the child is born and the relationship is just you, the child, and God. And all the legal stuff wasn't there when the child was born, and it's not there when the child dies. In the end, it is you and the child. And while I don't regard the religious part of it with God references, I understand exactly what he means. And I'm an agnostic, okay? I don't know. I don't believe that's absolutely it. Like Katelyn's dad said, I actually have this kind of, I've had this belief since I was little about our energy and our consciousness kind of spiraling out, like everything spirals out in a certain way. All forms of energy do. All living organisms, bacteria, plants, everything spirals out upon death and kind of transcends. And that's my theory, whatever. It's ever changing, so I'm not, but anyway. So, but I still, I agree with my friend Gerard, and I agree that there's nothing stopping you unless you surrender. In this case, there have been exceptions where dads have been wrongly accused and almost there's been entrapment going on, but I haven't had any compelling evidence that is what happened. PTSD, horrible reality. But if you can do leisurely things like play video games, smoke your weed, go to swimming parties. I don't think that can prohibit you from talking to your daughter. He mentioned in the hospital that he didn't go, but his family members went to the hospital. And then he proceeded to tell me when I asked him why he didn't call her, that because he didn't have the information to call her, but his family members just went to go see her. So that's another inconsistency. And if Tammy is listening to this, I apologize from a mother to another mother, which a lot of people are going to say she's not really a mother, and maybe they're right. I actually appreciate you for not trying to clear your name or not trying to justify anything you've done. Your silence is proof that you're suffering, and I don't care what anyone else says. I'm sorry that I'm exploiting. When he brought up how your father took his life, I felt really bad about that. I did, and I do. And that's your own private business, and I am so sorry you grew up with that. I'm so sorry that you had to find your daughter the way you did. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. And I think Katelyn would forgive you too. I'm not sorry for how you treated her or any neglect that went on or that Anthony piece of shit. But I am very sorry that what you've had to go through, and I don't really know what else to say. That I am genuinely sorry. And I don't know what else to say. I don't think anyone is any better than anyone in this situation. I do think that Anthony is the biggest piece of scum from what I know for a fact that he was telling your daughter. Okay, I'm done addressing Tammy at this point. I didn't expect when I got on here to record what I was going to say, except for the fact that I have a lot of regret inside of me right now. And that's it. So take what you want. Dissect this however you wish.